For October, I want to go over all of my favorite horror gory animes that I recommend you watch for this spooky season. Corpse's Party Tortured Souls is a 4-episode OVA horror anime based on the Japanese video game series Corpse's Party. It's a relentless gore-filled supernatural survival story. I honestly did enjoy this anime. It was pretty short and it gets to the point quickly, and it is pretty grotesque and pretty crazy. The story follows a group of high school students who perform a friendship ritual that transports them back to the terrifying alternative dimension, which is like a haunted elementary, which was torn down decades earlier following a series of horrific child murders. The students are separated and quickly realize they are trapped in a closed space with the vengeful spirits of the murdered children and the other victims of the school's curse. This anime does have extreme and unfiltered gore. It's an easy horror binge though, and it's only 4 episodes long, so I recommend if you guys have the time and want something, out there, to go watch Corpse's Party Torture Souls. Blood Sea is a 12-episode supernatural horror anime series from 2011 by Production IG and the famous all-female mangaka group Clamp. It is notorious for its dramatic and shocking tonal shift, combining a seamlessly innocent slice of life setting with an extreme graphic violence. This anime was a pleasant watch. I was really surprised that I actually liked it. I thought I wouldn't enjoy it, but it really picks up quickly and the action is really good and solid storyline. The series follows Saya, a cheerful, clumsy high school student who lives with her father at a local shrine, but by day her life is, normal high school girl slice of life, but at night she serves as a powerful swordsman hunting down grotesque human-eating monsters, kind of like vampires. Good to know that Blood Sea is separate and a complete reboot of the Blood franchise, and a not direct sequel or a prequel of Blood Plus or Blood Plus with Last Vampire Hunter. That's just good to know. It does a great job at creating a tense atmosphere, and the final twist is worth the watch. Magical Girls Raising Project is a dark fantasy and survival action anime that quickly turns the whimsical concept of magical girls into a brutal battle royale. This has to be one of my favorite magical girl series next to Special Ops. Like, this for me just does it. This anime does a good job at highlighting combat strategies, and the fights are less about flashy transformations and it's more about clever tactics, exploiting opponents' weaknesses, often having to use their powers in gruesome ways. 60 magical girls fighting brutal fights with variety and abilities, which keeps the action and dynamics very unpredictable. So it's really cool. It's really cool seeing the girls strategize to survive the elimination process. It's like the Hunger Games of magical girls, and I definitely recommend this for a good binge watch. I recommend Wicked City, released in 1987. Two worlds collide: the human world and the demonic world known as the Black World. We got a secret agent human named Taki and his beautiful demon partner Maki, who must protect a pervy 200-year-old diplomat from a radical demon faction trying to start an interdimensional war. It's a sci-fi horror, neo-noir, erotic body horror. It's got that classic 80s adult anime aesthetic. It's incredible creature designs. It's by the legendary Kawajiri, same director as Ninja Scroll. This movie contains extreme gore, violence, and graphic sexual content, so proceed with caution. But overall, I do like Wicked City, and I think it's a great way to jump off this great spooky season. King's Game is another anime I recommend. It's a horror survival game series about an entire high school class forced to participate in a deadly game controlled by a mysterious entity known as the King. The anime focuses heavily on the students' rapid descent into panic, selfishness, and betrayal, featuring explicit gore and a terrifying premise. Now listen, while this anime is not the best written, and honestly it makes no sense, it's a fun anime to watch. You don't take it too seriously, and it's really good to get you in that spooky spirit. Dead Man Wonderland is a horror action series about a young boy who is framed for mass murder and sent to a privatized prison that doubles as a deadly amusement park. See, this anime is a fun ride, and it gets you hooked from the first episode. I recommend this anime. This series is known for its high octane action, extreme violence, gore, and its dark, cynical look at the corrupt society that profits from suffering of its prisoners. You see, I recommend reading the manga to get the complete finished story because sadly, we only got 1 season for the anime. Calamity of a Zombie Girl is a horror action film released in 2018 that blends intense gore with dark comedy. Now, this movie is really stupid, and it's no masterpiece, makes no sense, and it's often very pointless, but I find it so funny, very entertaining, and I think the gore is really worth it. The plot centers around a zombie girl from a distinguished family who was revived by her father's magic after a fatal accident. She and her loyal artificial maid, Almavi, have been asleep for a century in the underground archives of a university. The conflict begins when a group of 5 undergrad students from the Occult Research Club sneak into the archive looking for the rumored treasure and steal the Stone of Life. Now, overall, the story unfolds as a gory, over-the-top survival horror romp where the zombie girl, the unlikable students, and the mad scientist siblings clash in an increasingly violent and absurd way for control of the life-giving stone. See, this movie is not to be taken seriously, but it is a fun ride, and I think you should watch it. High School of the Dead is an action horror anime manga about a small group of high school students and the school nurse who must fight to survive present-day Japan after a sudden worldwide zombie apocalypse. This anime has to be the ultimate gooner fantasy, but if you can set aside most of the perverted aspects, the vibrant horror component is actually entertaining, and it's kind of good in the sense that if you just don't take it seriously. And the anime doesn't hold back on any of the kills. It fully embraces its over-the-top nature, combining classic zombie horror flick with highly exaggerated and frequent fan service, making it a guilty pleasure spectacle for fans of the genre. Fine is a controversial horror sci-fi fiction anime about Lucy, a young member of a mutant species escaping a government research facility where she develops a split personality, one of a brutal killer, the other of an innocent childlike girl, and is taken in by a pair of cousins while the authorities hunt her down. See, this anime won't be for everyone, but beneath the gore and the fan service, the series tackles heavy themes like discrimination, abuse, identity, and the nature of humanity. However, it does have its moments of intense horror, and yes, sadly, the puppy does get got. So be forewarned, but Elfen Light is a classic anime everyone has to watch. Magical Girl Spec Ops Asuka is a dark military themed take on the magical girl genre. We follow Asuka, one of 5 of magical girls known as Magical 5, who has saved the world from an invading force of mystical creatures. After the war, she's trying to live a normal high school life, haunted by severe PTSD and the trauma of the war. Her attempts at peace are shattered when a new threat emerges, which are magical girl mercenaries and terrorists using both otherworldly powers and controversial military tactics. And honestly, this probably is one of my favorite magical girls next to Magical Girl Rising Project, and I think it has such a solid storyline, and I think the storyline has so much potential, and I feel like the antagonists are ruthless, and the show does not shy away from explicit violence, torture, and a darker subject matter, creating a sense of constant serious danger for the protagonist. Overall, I recommend Magical Girl Spec Ops for this Halloween. Claymore is a dark fantasy action anime set in a medieval-inspired world plagued by shape-shifting flesh-eating demons called Yoma. Extreme depiction of violence and gore, which is a key element of its dark fantasy appeal. The story primarily follows Claire, the lowest ranked Claymore, who is driven by a singular desire for revenge against a powerful awakened being, which is another Claymore who has fully succumbed to her Yoma side. An anime with a really strong female cast, and I enjoy the events as they unfolded, and it sort of reminds me of Game of Thrones and Beowulf combined together. You get Claymore. So I highly recommend this, but due to its persistent brutality and graphic imagery, the anime is strictly intended for mature audiences. Gantz is a brutal, violent, and often controversial science fiction horror anime and manga series. The story begins when a high school student and his childhood friend are killed in a train accident, but instead of them finding the afterlife, they are awakened in a sterile Tokyo apartment room containing other recently deceased people. And a massive, mysterious black sphere which shows the desperate, gruesome missions that the characters have to go through and the psychological toll of whether they're going to make it or not in all these life and death situations. And Gantz is a great anime from start to finish, and I recommend watching Gantz Zero for a taste of what to be expected. But overall, if you did like that one, I recommend watching Gantz. Tokyo Ghoul is a dark fantasy horror anime in an alternate Tokyo where mysterious creatures called ghouls, who look exactly like humans but can only survive by feeding on human flesh, live in secret. Now, 3 things that make Tokyo Ghoul a work of horror and gore. Cannibalism consumption is the core premise in which the ghouls need to feed. The series features numerous brutal fight scenes, often resulting in dismemberment, decapitation, significant blood loss, and Jason Voorhees lookalike. Anime is a fun ride, but sadly, the other seasons aren't as great. So, I recommend watching Tokyo Ghoul Season 1. For October, I want to go over all of my favorite horror gory anime that I think you will enjoy for this spooky season. Another is a supernatural horror and mystery anime series. It's known for its suspenseful plot, eerie atmosphere, and gruesome death scenes. It's basically the final destination of anime. The story is set in a fictional town and centers around a middle school, which is plagued by a horrific curse. Slowly, each student begins to meet a gruesome end. After watching this, I will never walk down the stairs holding an umbrella. So this is a fun anime with a great plot and gruesome ends to most characters. Higurashi When They Cry is a critically acclaimed supernatural horror, mystery, and psychological thriller series. It's famous for its unique structure of resetting narratives and unsettling blend of cute slice of life scenes with sudden intense violence and paranoia. Now, don't let this cute faces fool you, because this fucking anime is crazy. The series' most defining feature is its structure, which is split into multiple distinct stories arcs that essentially resets the narrative. Arcs present a single terrifying timeline that typically ends with tragedy, death, and no clear explanation for the event. The characters often succumb to violence, paranoia, or murder, with the ultimate culprit remaining a mystery. The time loops and one character's desperate struggle to find a timeline where everyone can be saved. This anime is a must-watch for all. The Danganronpa anime series consists of 2 main anime titles, which cover the beginning and the end of Whole Cake Academy storyline from the video games. It's a common point of confusion that the anime skips the second game, and the second game, Danganronpa 2 Goodbye Despair, was not adapted into an anime series, so I recommend you watch the YouTube gameplay to understand the story better. But ultimately, the anime franchise chronicles the Hope's Peak Academy storyline, a conflict between the ultimate forces of hope and despair that drive the world into chaos. Honestly, this has to be one of my top 10 lists of favorite animes, and I really enjoy the whole storyline, each character. I enjoy the new class perspectives, and it doesn't shy away from any gruesome death. It's good to note that when watching the final 2 seasons, you may want to alternate between episodes. For example, Future Arc Episode 1, then you go on to the next one, Despair Arc Episode 1, and then you go back to Future Arc Episode 2, and then to Despair Arc Episode 2, and so on, alternating. You know, this is just to understand how things come into play, revealing the final mastermind, and bringing the entire Hope's Peak Academy storyline to a close. Xenocyber is a notorious OVA series from the mid-90s, famous for its bleak cyberpunk atmosphere and extreme visceral violence and gore. The story follows the creation of ultimate biological weapon, Xenocyber, which is a fusion of 2 psychic sisters. The sisters are experimented on by a powerful group to harness their combined psychic powers into the perfect weapon. It is infamous for its detailed and non-sensitive graphic violence and body horror, pushing the boundaries of what was acceptable in animation at the time. It explores dark themes of corporate greed, human experimental, and the destructive nature of unchecked power and the ultimate fertility of hope in a corrupt world. Honestly, this anime is not for everyone, but if you can take Wicked City and Berserker, then check out Xenocyber. Akame ga Kill is probably one of my second top 10 lists. Well, it follows a naive swordsman, Tatsumi, joins the assassins group called Night Raid to fight the monstrous corruption of the Empire. The series is defined by its brutal, high-stakes battle using powerful relics and is notorious for its extremely high character death count. So it's best not to get attached to anyone, honestly. Shili. Rest in peace, Shili. This anime is enjoyable, the characters are likable, and the battles are worth the watch. I still wish we got a continuation of the story and what happens after the series final, but overall, this is a fun ride for this spooky season.